Chosen one, take a deep breath. What you are about to hear is not just another message of motivation, it is a spiritual turning point. This is not a coincidence. This moment was divinely orchestrated by the Creator himself. You didn't stumble onto this video by accident, and you're not watching this because you're curious. You're watching because you've been called, positioned, chosen. And not just chosen to endure, but chosen to receive. Chosen to shift. Chosen to walk into a new financial reality unlike anything you've experienced before. For far too long, you've lived under the weight of barely enough. You've carried the burden of overdue bills, mounting debts, rejected applications, sleepless nights filled with financial anxiety. You've begged heaven to open a door, any door. You've fasted, prayed, budgeted, cut back, sacrificed. And still, the breakthrough felt like it was always just out of reach. You've watched others rise while you stayed stuck. You've wondered if maybe you were forgotten, overlooked, somehow disqualified from the kind of blessing you see others walk in. But I need you to hear me clearly today, that season is over. You are no longer in the chapter of scraping by, checking your bank account in fear, or delaying dreams because of a lack of resources. The season of financial lack, begging for jobs, hustling with no return, feeling like you were drowning in bills and obligations, that season has come to an end. The heavens have issued a divine decree over your life, and that decree is this: the time for struggling is over. The time for divine financial abundance has begun. This isn't just spiritual poetry, it's your new reality. The shift is not on the horizon. It is here. It's not theoretical. It's tangible. You are not waiting for a new season, you have already stepped into it. You are transitioning from scarcity to surplus. From survival mode to supernatural provision. From constantly giving and never receiving to being flooded with more than enough, not just for your own needs, but to bless others. God has not only heard your cries, He has responded with a financial anointing that will mark your life from this moment forward. And I need you to really grasp this: you are not stepping into abundance because of how hard you've worked. You're stepping into it because of who your Father is. Because of His grace. His favor. His timing. You are becoming a living testimony of what happens when a child of God stops striving and starts receiving. The kind of receiving that doesn't require sweat, but surrender. That doesn't demand hustle, but holiness. Not effort, but alignment. Now let's address the doubts that may still be lingering in the corners of your heart. You may be asking, how can this be for me? Or, I've worked so hard and gotten nowhere, why would it change now? And to that, I say this: the shift is not about your performance. It's about your position. You are not just another face in the crowd. You are the chosen one. And chosen doesn't mean perfect. It means selected. Set apart. Positioned to carry a blessing so great that no man can claim credit for it, not even you. You've tried everything in your own strength. You've followed the rules of financial advisors, read books, listened to seminars, applied for loans, took on side jobs, cut expenses down to the bone, and still, the weight never lifted. But now, God is stepping in. Not to reward your exhaustion, but to end it. He's not here to give you the crumbs of survival. He's prepared a feast of abundance and is inviting you to sit at the table, not as a beggar, but as a beloved. So I ask you now, are you ready to receive what's already yours? Can you allow yourself to believe that the wealth you once viewed as too good to be true is actually the very thing God planned for you all along? This is not about prosperity for ego. It's not about chasing luxury or proving anything to anyone. It's about restoration. About dignity. About freedom from the financial torment that has robbed your joy, silenced your dreams, and made you question your worth. Let me be clear, this abundance is not something you will achieve. It is something you will step into. God is shifting the flow of wealth in your direction, not because you earned it, but because you are aligned with His will. He is breaking the chains of generational poverty, rewriting your financial DNA, and declaring over your life, no more begging. No more striving. No more just getting by. You were not created to chase money. You were created to carry it. To channel it. To steward it in ways that bless not just your household, but communities, nations, and futures. And if you're wondering whether this message is really for you, ask yourself this: why does your spirit feel so stirred right now? Why does something inside you feel like it's rising, waking up, breaking free? That's not just emotion. That's confirmation. The Holy Spirit is testifying within you that the season has shifted. That everything you thought was delayed is now being delivered. That what once felt impossible is about to become undeniable. So pause right now, not to question, but to align. Set your heart in agreement with this word. Let go of the fear that you'll be disappointed again. Let go of the voice that says, "Don't get your hopes up." Beloved, your hopes should be high, because they are anchored in a God who cannot lie. A God who says, "I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you." You are not at the mercy of the economy, or your employer, or your past decisions. You are under the covering of divine abundance. And I invite you to respond, not just emotionally, but intentionally. Speak out your agreement. Declare, "This is my season. I receive what heaven has already released. I am stepping from pennies to prosperity, not through effort, but through favor." As you do, you will feel a shift, not only in your mindset but in your atmosphere. The windows of heaven are opening, and what comes next will confirm everything you're beginning to believe. This is not the beginning of a motivational video, it is the beginning of a spiritual reality. One where your bank account, your mailbox, your relationships, and your opportunities begin to align with a God who delights in blessing his children. One where your life becomes living evidence that God's timing is perfect, and his promises are true. Let the old season fall away like dry leaves in the wind. Let the struggle fade into the background. You don't owe hardship anything. You've paid your dues. You've sown your tears. Now, you reap in joy. Now, you rise in overflow. Now, you begin to live as the chosen one you've always been. And as you receive this word, prepare for what's next. Because when you shift from survival to stewardship, a deeper transformation begins, one that rewrites your entire identity from the inside out. And from this point forward, your life will never look the same. And so we step forward, not with doubt, but with holy expectation. Because the next phase of this journey isn't about receiving more, it's about becoming the one who knows how to carry it. There comes a moment when everything you once believed about work, worth, and wealth is called into question, not because you were wrong, but because you've outgrown the struggle. This is that moment. The season of begging has come to an end. The era of chasing opportunities, stretching every dollar, and praying that something, anything, would finally shift in your favor has been replaced with something greater. Not because of effort. Not because of hustle. But because heaven made a decision, you are no longer meant to survive. You are meant to receive. Let this settle into your spirit, you do not need to beg for work anymore. You do not need to prove your worth to anyone, not even yourself. You are no longer required to scrape together pieces of opportunity, hoping someone will see your value. That mindset, the one shaped by rejection letters, overdue bills, ignored talents, and closed doors, is no longer serving you. And God is saying clearly now, lay it down. Stop begging. Stop doubting. Stop wondering if you're worthy. These are not just words, they are a spiritual decree. A release. A divine reset to everything you've ever been taught about earning success. God is not asking you to prove anything anymore. He's not interested in watching you labor through one more season of lack. He has already decided that your time for transformation has arrived. Not because of what you've done, but because of who He is. This isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment. The moment you stop approaching your future as if it's out of reach and start treating it as your rightful inheritance, everything begins to shift. The wealth you're walking into isn't just a response to prayer, it's a fulfillment of prophecy. You are not just anyone. You are the chosen one. And chosen doesn't mean lucky. It means appointed. Anointed. Assigned. You were not just created to participate in life, you were designed to carry the evidence of God's favor. That includes financial overflow. Yes, even without the traditional grind. Yes, even if your qualifications don't make sense on paper. Because what's happening next in your life has nothing to do with resumes or recommendations, it has everything to do with what heaven has already written about you. You've been living like someone who has to beg for scraps, waiting on handouts, hoping that someone else's success might somehow spill over in your direction. But God is interrupting that cycle now. No longer do you need to chase others for opportunities or beg for approval. You are not underqualified, you are overprepared. Not in the eyes of men, but in the eyes of your Maker. It's time to shift from survival to reception. From asking, "Will I ever make it?" to declaring, "This is already mine." Because the truth is, the wealth you've been chasing is already on its way, and not because you fought harder than others, but because God fought for you before you even knew you were in the battle. He positioned you in the waiting season, not to punish you, but to prepare you. And now that the preparation is complete, it's time to receive. Don't miss this moment by holding on to old mentalities. The beliefs that told you had to grind harder, sacrifice more, or prove yourself again and again, they were never aligned with God's design for you. They were lessons for a past season. But this is not that season anymore. The doors you once had to knock on, now they open at your presence. The validation you once begged for, now it flows naturally as people begin to see the favor on your life. You're not climbing your way to the top, you've been elevated by grace. So ask yourself this: why are you still living like someone who has to convince others of their value, when heaven has already confirmed it? Why are you working so hard to earn what's already been given? The truth is, your name was already on the list. The moment God chose you, the financial blessing was placed in motion. The wealth is not a reward, it's an inheritance. This is why it's so important to let go of the old role you've played. You're not the one at the back of the line anymore. You're not the person hoping to get picked. You've already been chosen. And when you start to live like it, you'll begin to see the shift play out in real time: sudden opportunities, favor where you once faced rejection, resources flowing where there once was lack. Not as a coincidence, but as a confirmation. God never intended for you to live in desperation. He intended for you to live in expectation. He didn't create you to run on empty. He designed you to overflow. And that overflow doesn't begin with your paycheck or your job title, it begins with your belief. With the moment you choose to stop begging and start receiving. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not lacking. You are perfectly positioned to experience what only God could orchestrate: divine wealth, released without striving. This isn't about the absence of effort, it's about the presence of favor. And favor will carry you further than force ever could. Let this be the moment where you put down the mindset of scarcity and pick up the mantle of abundance. Not because of ego. Not because of ambition. But because it's already been spoken over your life. What used to feel like an unreachable dream is now becoming a supernatural reality, not through your own power, but by divine appointment. And with this truth planted deep within you, the next shift becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Because once you stop begging and start receiving, you're finally ready for what comes next: the spiritual reprogramming that rewrites your entire relationship with wealth itself. You've worked. You've toiled. You've stayed up late, woken up early, and done everything you were told would lead to success. You've said yes when you wanted to say no, and carried burdens that were never yours to bear, all in pursuit of that one moment when it would finally feel like things were working in your favor. But for all the effort, for all the grinding, for all the sacrifice, you still found yourself in the same place. Questioning. Wondering. Waiting. You're not alone in that. So many people have come to believe that wealth is the prize for those who exhaust themselves the most. That financial freedom only comes after you've been squeezed dry of your energy, your joy, your peace. But let's break that lie today. Look around you. Look at the people who have risen from nothing to everything. They didn't necessarily work harder than you. They didn't make more sacrifices. Many didn't even have the same obstacles you've had to overcome. What they did, what made the difference, was trust. Trust in timing. Trust in purpose. Trust in God. This is where everything begins to shift. Because the breakthrough you've been waiting for isn't going to be the result of one more sleepless night or one more anxious attempt to fix everything yourself. It's not coming because you've finally figured out the perfect formula. It's coming because God has already decided. That's the part we miss. That's the part we doubt. But it's the most important truth you'll ever embrace. It's not because of your effort or your hard work, it's because God has decided. Let that sentence settle into your soul. You're not being left behind because you haven't done enough. You haven't been overlooked because you didn't hustle as hard. You're not still waiting because God needs you to prove something. No. This delay was never a denial. It was preparation. Because everything that's meant for you is already in place, it's just waiting for you to catch up to God's perfect timing. And His timing is, indeed, perfect. Maybe you feel like you've wasted time. Like you missed your window. Like the breakthrough you prayed for 5 years ago is no longer possible. But let me remind you, when God moves, He doesn't move according to deadlines. He moves according to destiny. He's never late. He's never early. He's always right on time. And if you're hearing this message, it's because the appointed time has arrived. You are now standing at the edge of a moment that has been ordained long before you knew to ask for it. You're not entering a season of striving, you're stepping into a season of receiving. But you can't carry old beliefs into this new moment. You can't bring the idea that you have to earn what God has already given. You must be willing to lay down the mindset that says, I have to work harder, and instead pick up the truth that says, I have to trust deeper. Because here is the truth, financial breakthrough is not a wage, it's a gift. It's not about your merit, it's about His mercy. You don't step into overflow by pushing harder, but by surrendering more fully. The path to abundance isn't paved with sweat and exhaustion, it's walked by faith and obedience. So if you've been measuring your progress by your labor, it's time to shift your perspective. You're not building a future by sheer force. You're walking into a reality that's already been prepared for you. The doors that are about to open in your life won't open because you knocked the hardest, they'll open because God is the one holding the keys. And when He opens a door, no one can shut it. You may be wondering, but why not sooner? Why did I have to go through so much? Why was I left waiting while others succeeded? And the answer is this, because God wasn't just preparing the blessing, He was preparing you. The delay wasn't about punishment, it was about positioning. It wasn't about denial, it was about development. God was strengthening your character, deepening your faith, and aligning your heart with His promise so that when the time came, you wouldn't just receive the blessing, you'd be able to sustain it. The appointed time is not something we earn, it's something we recognize. And once you recognize it, everything changes. The weight you've been carrying begins to lift. The pressure to perform starts to fade. And peace, real, soul-settling peace, takes its place. Because you finally realize you don't have to keep climbing to reach what God has already lowered into your hands. So ask yourself, what would change in your life if you truly believed that God's timing is better than your effort? What would shift if you stopped chasing and started trusting? How much lighter would your soul feel if you surrendered the need to figure it all out and simply followed where He leads? It's time to make that shift. The path to wealth isn't through burnout. It's through belief. The breakthrough isn't delayed, it's divine. And now that the appointed moment has arrived, your job is simple: let go of the labor and lean into the grace. God is not asking you to earn what He's already decided to give. He's asking you to receive it. You don't need to work harder, you need to believe deeper. You don't need to chase opportunity, you need to recognize the one God is placing right in front of you. Because when God says, now, everything changes. The struggle ends. The door opens. The abundance flows. And you finally understand that the delay wasn't punishment, it was orchestration. What God is about to do in your life won't make sense to those who think success only comes through hustle. They'll ask how you did it. They'll wonder how it happened so fast. And your answer will be simple: God decided. And I believed him. And that belief, that's what unlocks the next level. The time is now. The striving is over. The harvest is here. And as you step into this realization with clarity and courage, something deeper begins to unfold, a transformation not just in your finances, but in your identity itself, because the next chapter isn't just about what you have, it's about who you become. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey where the battle is no longer external. It's not against unpaid bills or closed doors. It's against the thoughts that have kept you stuck. The real prison hasn't been your circumstances, it's been your mindset. And now, that prison is being unlocked. For too long, you may have seen yourself as a victim. Not because you wanted to be, but because life convinced you that you were one. You've been told, by culture, by experience, by failure, that you're just surviving. That abundance is for someone else. That you must work twice as hard to barely get half. And eventually, those lies took root. They became your inner dialogue: maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe I'll never have more than just enough. But hear this with clarity: you are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the creator of your reality, guided by God's divine hand. That's not just a statement of encouragement. It's a spiritual truth that calls for transformation. Because before you ever receive abundance externally, you must first dismantle the belief internally that you were meant for anything less. God is not waiting for you to become more perfect, more productive, or more deserving. He's waiting for you to believe that what He's already planned for you is real. That you were created with purpose, and that part of that purpose includes wealth, not just financial provision, but a fullness of life that radiates from your identity as someone chosen. This shift begins in your thoughts. It begins the moment you stop asking, "What if I never get there?" and start declaring, "I'm already on the path." It's the power of the law of assumption, an inner alignment that reshapes the outer world. What you assume to be true becomes the foundation of what you create. But this isn't about wishful thinking or empty affirmations. This is about spiritual positioning. It's about knowing that wealth isn't just a hope, it's a divine inheritance. And that inheritance has already been signed in your name. Ask yourself, what if your assumption was that wealth is already yours? What if, instead of waiting for proof, you chose to live as though it had already arrived? You wouldn't beg anymore. You wouldn't hesitate. You wouldn't speak lack or think lack or dress yourself in the identity of struggle. You would rise. You would walk with authority. You would speak with confidence. And you would prepare your life, your mindset, your habits, your home, as if the blessing were already at your doorstep. Because in truth, it is. Assuming abundance is not about pretending. It's about aligning. It's about stepping out of the role of the one who always waits and into the role of the one who is already aligned with heaven's flow. The assumption of abundance is not about forcing yourself to think positively, it's about living in the knowledge that wealth is a divine gift that is coming to you. Not later. Now. This is the moment where you stop carrying the thoughts that don't serve you anymore. The belief that says you'll never be more than your past. The fear that tells you good things are for others. The quiet voice that whispers, "You're always one step behind." No. That ends here. You've been chosen for greatness. You've been appointed for overflow. You've been designed not just to survive, but to thrive. God didn't create you with a spirit of lack, He created you with a mind capable of transformation, a heart open to receiving, and a life that can reflect His glory. And that includes financial glory. You are not waiting for your breakthrough, you are becoming it. But becoming requires belief. Belief in your worth. Belief in your future. Belief that God's hand is not only on your life but is guiding you into rooms you thought were out of reach. And not because of what you've done, but because of who He is, and who He says you are. You may have spent years in cycles of lack, emotionally, mentally, financially. You may have learned to minimize your desires and settle for what fits within your budget of fear. But that mindset was never meant to be your home. It was only meant to teach you the contrast between where you've been and where you're about to go. So here's the call: shift your identity. Stop identifying with your limitations and start identifying with the one who called you. Your job now is to live as the version of yourself that already holds the abundance God promised. To walk with the posture of prosperity. To think thoughts of peace, power, and provision. To let go of the old scripts and receive the new assignment. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. It's not self-made ambition. It's heaven-breathed purpose. You are not someone reaching for wealth, you are someone who carries wealth within. And now, it's time for that inner truth to take shape in your outer world. And when you step into this shift, this mindset, this assumption, this divine identity, you'll begin to see that everything around you starts to respond. Doors will open. Opportunities will find you. Blessings will recognize your name. Because your inner world is no longer sabotaging your outer harvest. Your life is no longer shaped by struggle. It is shaped by the Spirit. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Freedom from lack. Freedom from shame. Freedom from small thinking and survival mode living. So, if you're ready to stop waiting and start receiving, don't just believe it, live like it's already true. Speak abundance. Prepare for overflow. Dress for destiny. Think like someone who's already living in what others are still praying for. Because the moment you accept that wealth is not something you chase but something you carry, the flow of heaven begins to respond. And as you step into this new mindset with faith and boldness, everything begins to shift, from the inside out. The inner transformation unlocks the outer overflow, and from here, the divine alignment only deepens. Sometimes the most powerful movements of God happen in silence. Not in thunder, not in earthquakes, not in dramatic signs, but in quiet orchestration, divine alignment, and invisible preparation. And right now, chosen one, whether you feel it or not, God is intervening. His plan for your financial breakthrough is already in motion. You may be wondering, where is it? I don't see anything changing. But just because you can't see the gears turning doesn't mean the machinery of heaven is idle. There is a power at work in your life at this very moment, an invisible force that is guiding you toward the wealth you've long prayed for. This is not poetic language. It's a spiritual reality. While you've been trying to make sense of closed doors and missed opportunities, God has been preparing a divine route that no human hand could build. Think about this. How many times have you tried to force things to happen on your own? How many times have you knocked on doors that remained closed, thinking maybe you needed to work harder, show more value, or prove yourself just a little more? But God is saying, let go. I am the one unlocking the doors. That's the beauty of divine intervention. It doesn't ask for your labor. It invites your surrender. Behind the scenes, God is shifting the landscape in your favor. He's moving people into position, individuals who will speak your name in rooms you've never entered. He's aligning resources that you haven't even thought to ask for. He's creating divine collisions between your destiny and the exact opportunities that will carry you forward. What you're walking into is not random, it's heaven scripted. You're not in a holding pattern. You're in a setup. The people, the opportunities, the timing, it's all being arranged so precisely that when it comes together, you'll look back in awe and say, only God could have done this. And that's the point. God wants you to know that you're not alone in this. You're not the only one pushing the wheel forward. In fact, it's not your job to push the wheel at all. He's been the one turning it all along. What may feel to you like delay is often God's divine protection or preparation. What seems like silence is God rearranging the pieces to fit the picture you haven't seen yet. This is not the season to panic. This is the season to trust. Because when God steps in, everything changes. Closed doors don't just unlock, they fall off the hinges. Obstacles don't just move, they disappear. What was once impossible becomes inevitable. This divine intervention is not just a spiritual idea, it's an act of reality. God is not waiting to bless you. He's already begun. He's not debating whether or not you're ready. He's already deemed you worthy. And now, He's clearing the way, not because you earned it, but because He ordained it. Feel that. Let it sink in. You are walking through a supernatural transition, not because you pushed hard enough, but because heaven has declared, it's time. The things that used to intimidate you are about to honor you. The spaces that once ignored you will now celebrate you. Not because you've changed in the eyes of people, but because God's favor has shifted the environment around you. This is the part of the journey where many get discouraged. When the physical hasn't yet caught up to the spiritual. When what your heart believes hasn't fully manifested in what your eyes can see. But don't be deceived by the illusion of delay. It's not a delay, it's a delivery in progress. God doesn't operate on earthly timelines. He doesn't rush. He doesn't stumble. His plan isn't reactive, it's preordained. So while you're trying to figure out when, God is already in the process of revealing the how. The right people are being positioned. The funding you need is on its way. The opportunity you've dreamed of is circling back around. And the peace you've longed for is about to flood your life. Not because you chased it, but because you aligned with it. Now is the time to shift your posture from striving to trusting. This is not about your hustle anymore. This is about heaven's help. God is stepping in. And when He does, the very foundation of your reality begins to move in your favor. You don't have to beg for another open door. You don't have to prove your worth to another person. God is proving His promise. And His promise is abundance. So pause for a moment and breathe. Let the anxiety fall off. Let the fear dissolve. You are not lost. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned, on purpose, by the hand of the one who authored your calling. He hasn't left you behind, He's actually gone ahead of you, preparing everything you need. This moment is sacred. Not because you've done everything right, but because God has decided to move on your behalf. And when that happens, chosen one, it's not about if it will happen, it's only a matter of when. And that when, is closer than you think. As we move forward, it's time to explore what it means to not only receive this divine alignment but to live from it, speak from it, and act in accordance with what heaven is already doing behind the scenes. Because your outer overflow begins with inner surrender, and your surrender is what unlocks the next chapter of favor. Before wealth manifests in your hands, it must first take root in your mind. Before prosperity becomes a visible reality, it must become your internal truth. And right now, chosen one, you are being invited not just to expect wealth, but to walk in it. To live as someone already chosen. To embody your millionaire identity, not in the distant future, not someday, but right now. This transformation doesn't begin in your bank account. It begins in your beliefs. This is not about what you have, it's about who you are. For so long, you've prayed for increase, for financial breakthrough, for a miracle to shift your circumstances. But what if the breakthrough you're waiting for isn't waiting for you? What if it's already here, waiting for you to recognize who you truly are in God's divine plan? You are no longer the person who struggles to make ends meet. You are no longer defined by how many bills are due or how many times you've had to borrow. That identity, the one shaped by lack, shaped by fear, shaped by survival, is not your destiny. It was your training ground, but not your home. You are stepping into something greater, a new identity. A financial identity aligned with the kingdom of heaven. One that says, I don't just receive abundance, I am the kind of person abundance is drawn to. That's the difference. This isn't just about receiving money. It's about becoming the kind of person who can hold it, sustain it, multiply it, and steward it well. That's why this message isn't only about breakthroughs and blessings, it's about preparation. About formation. You're being shaped into someone who doesn't just touch prosperity temporarily, but lives in it permanently. That's why the message boldly declares, it's time to walk in your millionaire identity. This isn't metaphor. This isn't exaggeration. This is the reality heaven is declaring over you. You are being called to become the person who lives from abundance, thinks with abundance, speaks from abundance, and radiates abundance. You are not waiting for prosperity to arrive. You are preparing to receive it, and more than that, to become the vessel through which it flows. This transformation must be intentional. When you see yourself as broke, you act like someone desperate. But when you see yourself as chosen, called, and trusted by God with divine wealth, everything changes. Your choices shift. Your energy shifts. Your standards rise. You no longer make decisions based on fear, you make them based on destiny. This is the moment when your thoughts, your posture, your language, and your actions must align. The world may still see you as someone recovering from lack, but heaven sees you as someone already seated in overflow. You don't need the approval of the world to claim your identity, you need agreement with God. So what does it mean to walk in your millionaire identity? It means showing up every day as the person who is already chosen, already provided for, already equipped. It means not begging for scraps but positioning yourself for divine assignments. It means managing your time like someone whose ideas carry value. It means honoring your gifts, your voice, your vision, because you know God placed them in you for a purpose. It also means making room in your life for wealth. This is more than mindset, it's alignment. Are your habits aligned with prosperity? Are your boundaries aligned with stewardship? Are your thoughts aligned with abundance or still clinging to fear? This shift is not pride, it's preparation. God doesn't pour out wealth on the unprepared. He blesses those who can carry what He gives. To receive wealth, you must become the person who can hold it. And to become that person, you must see yourself as already transformed. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are evolving. This isn't just a personal transformation, it's a prophetic one. Because when you step into this new identity, your life becomes a testimony. Others will look at you and wonder how you shifted so quickly, how doors opened so effortlessly, how you went from barely surviving to radically thriving. And the answer will be clear, this is what happens when a chosen one remembers who they are. You become living proof that God's favor doesn't depend on hustle, it depends on alignment. You become a signal to others that faith still moves mountains. You show the world that wealth is not just for the few, but for the faithful. And here's the truth that undergirds it all, wealth is not just a dream. It's your divine right. Not because you've earned it, but because God has appointed it. You are not stepping into fantasy, you are stepping into fulfillment. This is your inheritance, not your imagination. So today, let go of the "maybe someday" narrative. Let go of the identity rooted in just surviving. Let go of the lie that says you must wait until everything looks perfect before you can feel prosperous. Begin to live from the truth that abundance is already your portion. You don't have to force it. You don't have to fight for it. But you do have to believe it, and act like it. Because the world responds to what you embody. Speak like the millionaire you've been called to be. Think like the leader God has appointed you to be. Live with the peace of someone who knows their provision has already been secured. This is the day you stop wondering when things will change, and start becoming the change itself. You've waited long enough. You've prayed long enough. You've hoped long enough. Now it's time to align. To receive. To live boldly and unapologetically as the person God already sees. Step into your new identity, chosen one. The doors are already open. The stage has already been set. And the next chapter of overflow begins with the way you see yourself, right now. There comes a moment in the life of every chosen one when the inner battle to earn, to control, and to figure it all out must give way to something deeper, quieter, and infinitely more powerful: trust. That moment is now. You've spent years trying to force doors open, crafting strategy after strategy, telling yourself that if you just work harder, save more, hustle longer, then finally the floodgates of wealth will open. But here is the truth that this message wants you to hold close: your abundance is not the result of your endless effort. It is the result of God's divine favor. And that favor is not something you earn, it is something you receive. In the original message, there is a consistent rhythm of reassurance: you don't have to fight for your wealth, it's already yours. Let that sink in. You are not at war with money. You are not in competition with the world for provision. You are walking under an open heaven, and everything you need, wealth, security, freedom, is already making its way to you. It's not a transaction. It's a transfer. And it's happening now. But for that transfer to be complete, something within you has to shift. The old belief that wealth must come through blood, sweat, and tears must give way to the higher truth that wealth flows naturally when you're in alignment with the one who owns everything. This isn't about abandoning responsibility or action, it's about letting go of control. And those are two very different things. So many have been taught to view money as a mountain to climb. Each dollar must be wrestled for. Each opportunity must be chased. And so, we plan, overwork, and micromanage. We tighten our grip and try to control every outcome. But the more we try to control, the more we resist the very thing we desire. Because control is rooted in fear. And fear is the enemy of faith. Here's what the message makes clear: the more you try to control your finances, the more you push away the blessings God has in store for you. In other words, your anxiety about how and when your wealth will come might actually be the wall standing between you and the wealth itself. But if you are willing to release that grip, to say, "God, I trust you more than I trust my plans," you open the floodgates for miracles to move freely in your life. This is not passive resignation. This is spiritual alignment. Letting go is not the same as giving up. Letting go is an act of trust. It is standing in faith and saying, "I believe that what God has ordained for me will find me. And I won't ruin it by trying to force it." When you do that, you shift from striving to receiving. And that is the posture that allows heaven to move. The message then declares what your soul has longed to hear: this is your season. Your wealth, your freedom, and your abundance are not far away. They are here. Did you catch that? Not someday. Not when the stars align. Not when you finally deserve it. But now. This moment is sacred. The door is open. And everything you've prayed for is not only possible, it is present. You no longer have to wonder if you'll miss it. You no longer have to be afraid that God has overlooked you. He hasn't. He's been orchestrating this moment for longer than you know. And now that it's here, your only responsibility is to believe it, and to rest in it. Rest, in this context, is not laziness. It's not avoidance. It's the most powerful expression of faith. Rest says, "I know my Father is good. I know His promises are true. And I trust Him enough to stop striving and start receiving." Rest is what happens when your heart is anchored in truth. Rest is where miracles multiply. And what does that rest look like? It's choosing peace when your bank account hasn't caught up yet. It's praising while you wait. It's waking up with the quiet confidence that you are on schedule with heaven, even if you feel behind by earthly standards. It's moving forward without stress because you know the blessing is already chasing you down. You're not chasing after abundance. Abundance is chasing after you. The content captures this posture perfectly: let go. Trust. And watch as God's plan unfolds beautifully before your eyes. That's the essence of this moment. To stop striving and start trusting. To stop forcing and start flowing. The plan has already been written. The provisions have already been stored. The opportunities have already been set in motion. All of heaven is moving on your behalf. The only thing left is for you to believe it's already yours. So what do you do with this truth? You begin living from it. You allow it to settle into your nervous system, your language, your expectations. You stop preparing for lack and start preparing for overflow. You remove the scarcity mindset and make room for divine surplus. You walk through your day like someone who has already received the inheritance, not because you're arrogant, but because you're aware. This part of your journey is sacred. It is not just about money. It is about trust. It is about laying down the belief that you must do everything on your own. It is about choosing rest, not as retreat, but as revelation. Because in rest, you see more clearly. In rest, you hear the whisper of God. In rest, you are prepared to carry what labor alone could never produce. You are not meant to force this. You are meant to flow in it. And the more you surrender to that truth, the more effortlessly wealth will find you. Let this be your moment of release. Let this be the day you stop struggling to make it happen, and start allowing what's already been ordained to unfold. Let peace become your strategy. Let faith become your financial plan. Let rest become your access point. The season of struggle has passed. The pressure to perform has lifted. What you're stepping into now isn't earned, it's given. And it's given freely, joyfully, lovingly, because God has already decided. What comes next is not based on effort, but on alignment. And that alignment begins not with work, but with surrender. You've let go. You've trusted. Now, watch what happens next. For many people, the greatest obstacle to abundance is not a lack of opportunity or resources, it's a system of beliefs that keeps them locked in cycles of struggle. The message delivered to the chosen one in this season is clear: wealth is not being withheld from you by God, it's being blocked by beliefs that were never meant to be yours. And now is the time to let them go. Think about the inner phrases you've been repeating for years, often without realizing it. Money is hard to come by. I have to sacrifice everything just to get by. Maybe I'm not meant to be wealthy. These thoughts are not just passing fears, they are chains. And those chains were not forged in heaven. They were shaped by pain, by lack, by trauma, and by systems that taught you to see yourself as small and unworthy. The original content speaks to this directly. The beliefs you've held about money, success, and worth have shaped your financial reality, but some of these beliefs no longer serve you. That line is not a gentle suggestion, it is a mirror. A truth that forces you to look inward and ask yourself, have I built my financial life on fear instead of faith? This section is not about tactics or techniques, it's about liberation. You cannot receive divine abundance while clinging to lies that say you're undeserving. You cannot step into your inheritance if you believe you have to earn every bit of it through suffering. That's not the truth of heaven. That's not the voice of God. God says, "You are my child. I have appointed you, not to survive, but to flourish. I have plans to prosper you." And it's time for you to believe that. The message continues: these beliefs have kept you stuck in a cycle of lack and limitation. Lack is not just financial, it's emotional, mental, spiritual. It clouds your vision. It makes you doubt your prayers even as you speak them. It makes you feel guilty for desiring more, as if prosperity and purity cannot coexist. But this message breaks that illusion. You are not called to live in lack to prove your holiness. You are called to rise, to receive, to reflect the generosity of the God who provides for his people in overflowing measure. So what now? What do you do when you realize that the limitation was never external, it was internal? You begin again. Not with more effort, but with new beliefs. You replace the old scripts with heaven's truth. You build a new system of thought rooted not in fear, but in divine identity. The content is clear: it's time for a new belief system, that opens you up to the miracles that are already on their way. That means the miracles are not delayed, they're just waiting for your permission. What would change if you truly believed wealth is your birthright? That your name has already been written on the blessings stored in heaven for you? That abundance is not the exception, but your divine expectation. This new belief system isn't about entitlement, it's about alignment. It's about seeing yourself through God's eyes, not through the broken lenses handed to you by culture, family, or fear. It's about saying, I am not excluded. I am not behind. I am not disqualified. I am chosen. And everything that heaven has for me, I now receive. Let this moment be your personal declaration of freedom. Let this be the day you say, I release the belief that money must be earned through exhaustion. I reject the thought that I am unworthy of financial blessing. I accept that God has appointed me to steward abundance for His purpose. I am no longer a victim of scarcity, I am an heir to the kingdom. And this is more than affirmation. This is alignment. When your beliefs shift, your reality will follow. Because faith is the currency of heaven, and when you operate in faith, doors open that effort alone could never unlock. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to say yes to what God has already spoken over your life. That's how freedom begins. That's how the chains fall. God's plan has always included your prosperity, not just to bless you, but to make you a blessing to others. And that plan requires a mindset that is ready to carry wealth with wisdom, grace, and purpose. So today, stop waiting for permission to rise. Give yourself that permission. Speak it. Believe it. Live like the wealth is already yours, because it is. This is not a hope, it's a holy shift. The old system has expired. The old narrative no longer fits you. You're not just letting go of limiting beliefs, you're stepping into a new reality. One where abundance is not the reward for perfection, but the response to surrender. God is waiting on your agreement. Heaven is ready to deliver. And all of creation is watching to see what happens when the chosen one finally stops doubting, and starts receiving. Let go of the old voice that said, you're not ready. Let go of the fear that whispered, it won't work for you. Let go of the guilt that made you believe you had to prove yourself worthy of God's goodness. You are already worthy. Now step into the belief system that reflects that truth. And as you do, everything else will begin to change. Because the moment your mind is renewed, your future is too. You've broken the chains. You've changed the script. Now comes the flow. There is a sacred formula in the kingdom of God, one that unlocks divine abundance, not by accident, not by toil alone, but by alignment. In this season, the message to you is clear: your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions must come into agreement. This is not a passive wait for blessings. This is an invitation to embody the reality of abundance before it shows up in your bank account. The original message puts it plainly: it's not enough to just believe in your potential, you must act in ways that reflect the abundance you are about to receive. This is not about pretending. It's about living from the truth that God has already spoken over you. The promise is done. The wealth is appointed. The path has been prepared. But are you living like someone who believes that? So many of us pray with conviction but live with hesitation. We declare prosperity with our mouths but make decisions from fear. We visualize freedom but operate as if we're still bound. The disconnection between what we say, what we believe, and how we act is what keeps the floodgates of heaven closed. That's why now, in this moment, you are being called to sync every part of yourself, your mind, your heart, your hands. Let's begin with the mind. You can no longer allow thoughts of lack to dominate your inner world. Every time you think, it's not happening for me, or maybe I'm not ready, or this is too good to be true, you reinforce a reality God never wrote for you. It's time to renew your mind. The truth is this: you have already been appointed for wealth. You are not trying to earn it, you are aligning with it. So your thoughts must say, abundance is already mine. God has already provided. I am now stepping into what's been waiting for me. Next comes the heart. Your emotions carry the energy of your beliefs. Are you living with the emotional posture of someone who is constantly stressed, anxious, or afraid that blessings might slip through their fingers? Or are you cultivating gratitude, peace, and expectancy as if the miracle has already happened? The scripture says, "Guard your heart, for from it flows the issues of life." When your heart is filled with trust and joy, it signals heaven that you're ready to receive. Feel what it's like to live in overflow. Let that become your emotional baseline. And finally, your actions. Here's where the transformation becomes visible. It's no longer acceptable to make decisions from fear. The choices you make daily must reflect who you already are in the Spirit, a person called by God to live in wealth and purpose. This doesn't mean reckless spending or irresponsible risks, it means walking in faith. It means showing up to life not like someone scraping for survival, but like someone sent to distribute heaven's generosity. This is where the law of assumption becomes more than just an idea, it becomes your operating system. The original message challenges you with the question, what if your assumption was that wealth is already yours? What if you woke up every day and lived from that truth? How would you talk? What opportunities would you pursue? What would you no longer tolerate? When you assume abundance, not just as a possibility, but as your present spiritual identity, you shift the atmosphere around you. Visualization is key. Picture yourself living in the fullness God designed. See yourself paying off debts not in fear, but in joy. Imagine being a blessing to others with ease. Walk through your day with the inner knowing that wealth is on its way, because God has said so. Let every decision, every response, every posture be built on that vision. This isn't about performance. It's about embodiment. God is not calling you to act for the sake of appearances, He's calling you to become who you already are in His plan. The original message says, align your thoughts, your actions, and your heart with God's vision. That alignment is what turns spiritual inheritance into visible manifestation. So here's your path forward. Think like someone who has already received. Speak like someone who believes the promise. Feel like someone who is living in the overflow. Act like someone who knows the gates of heaven are open. This is how you prepare for prosperity, not by forcing results, but by becoming the version of yourself who can hold what God has prepared. God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for congruence. When what you believe and what you do begin to match, heaven responds. It's not about striving harder, it's about living truer. You are not waiting on blessings to prove themselves. Blessings are waiting on you to come into agreement. So ask yourself, do my decisions reflect my destiny? Do my habits match my harvest? Am I walking like someone chosen, or shrinking like someone unsure? You already know the truth. Now live it. Let your thoughts rise. Let your faith anchor you. Let your actions align. Because in that holy alignment, miracles move quickly. Resources find you. Favor surrounds you. And the life you once dreamed of becomes the life you now walk in. Your role isn't to chase what God has already assigned. Your role is to live as though it's already done. And as you do, something greater begins to unfold. There's a sacred misconception that many of us carry, one that limits how we understand the blessings of God. We tend to believe that miracles are rare events, once-in-a-lifetime interventions, fleeting moments that come and go like rain in the desert. But what if the abundance God has promised you isn't meant to be a moment, but a motion? Not a spark, but a stream. This part of your journey is not about preparing for a one-time miracle. It's about stepping into a continuous flow, a never-ending, unstoppable, heaven-powered river of divine abundance. The original message doesn't describe wealth as a distant gift that drops in and disappears. It defines it as a flow. A state of life. A rhythm. A way of walking where overflow becomes your new normal. And once you enter that flow, there is no going back. The content declares it clearly: once God opens the doors to prosperity in your life, there is no going back. That means this isn't temporary. It's not situational. It's not based on luck or timing or how hard you hustle. This blessing, this wealth, this elevation, it's rooted in the eternal will of God. And when He decides it's your season, that flow begins, and it cannot be stopped. That's why this moment is not just about breakthrough, it's about sustainability. God is not just giving you a blessing, He's making you a conduit. You're not meant to be a reservoir where wealth gathers and stagnates. You're meant to be a channel through which abundance flows, into your life, into your family, and into everyone connected to your purpose. This is multiplication at its core. You will bless others, the content says, becoming a conduit of God's grace and generosity. This shift in identity, from collector to distributor, is what marks true spiritual wealth. You are not being blessed just so you can escape struggle. You are being blessed so you can lift others out of it. God is entrusting you with overflow so that your life becomes living proof of His goodness on earth. And this overflow, it's not just about money. This divine flow touches every area of your life. Your finances, yes. But also your health, your relationships, your joy, your peace, your influence. It's about every area of your life flourishing, says the message. That means no part of your existence will be left untouched by the current of heaven. When God pours, He pours fully. He restores, renews, and replenishes you in ways you didn't even know you needed. It begins when you stop expecting miracles and start expecting movement. Miracles are great. But movement is what sustains. This isn't about one big check, one answered prayer, one breakthrough opportunity. This is about walking in rhythm with divine abundance daily, knowing that every time you pour out, God pours back in. And the more you give, the more the river expands. So how do you step into this flow? First, you anchor your belief. You no longer view blessings as rare. You no longer doubt whether God wants to prosper you. You stand firm in the truth that He's already opened the gates, and you've already stepped through. Second, you shift your language. You stop speaking like someone who is hoping for a miracle, and you start declaring like someone who is standing in the stream. You don't say, "I hope God blesses me this year." You say, "I'm already living in what God promised." Third, you elevate your purpose. You don't chase blessings for your own benefit. You welcome them so you can become a blessing. You ask God to enlarge your territory not just so you can live comfortably, but so you can serve powerfully. You become the evidence that God is good, not just in word, but in your lifestyle. And finally, you prepare for the unexpected. Because when God says He's releasing unstoppable flow, He means it. Opportunities you didn't apply for. Doors you never knocked on. Relationships you didn't initiate. Everything begins to align because the river is no longer blocked. You're not just in overflow, you are overflow. The time has come for you to stop asking for just enough. You were not created to survive in scarcity. You were designed to thrive in surplus. The old mindset said, "I'll take whatever comes." The new mindset says, "I receive what's already mine." You're no longer waiting for the next miracle, you're living in a divine current that carries you from glory to glory, from strength to strength, from seed to harvest and beyond. So let this truth settle deep in your spirit: what's coming next isn't a miracle, it's a movement. What's opening up for you isn't temporary, it's permanent. What God is releasing isn't just for you, it's for everyone connected to your destiny. Get ready for this unstoppable flow. Because once it begins, it will never stop. And neither will you. Your assignment isn't to question the flow, it's to carry it forward. Now step into the next part of your journey, where the inheritance becomes impact, and the overflow becomes unstoppable. There comes a moment in every divine journey when the waiting ends, not because time has passed, but because heaven has spoken. This is that moment. The message is clear, the tone is unmistakable, the time has come. That means no more postponing your breakthrough. No more hoping with bated breath. No more wondering when it will be your turn. Because, chosen one, the miracle is no longer on its way, it has arrived. From the very start, this message shifts the atmosphere. It does not speak from a place of delay or distant promise. It speaks from presence. This isn't prophecy in waiting. This is manifestation. God is not about to move. He is already moving. And everything you've been praying for is no longer being held back, it's being released, right now, in your favor. Our message affirms this over and over again: it has happened. The miracle is here. These words are not metaphors. They are spiritual statements that reshape your mind and reposition your heart. This is not the time to ask, when will it happen? This is the time to say, I get it. Because the spiritual season has changed, and you are standing in the midst of divine fullness. Everything is falling into place. Let those words settle in. Everything, not some things, not most things, everything is aligning in your favor. What felt disorganized is now making sense. What was stuck is now moving. What felt like delay is now revealed as divine timing. That's the power of a God-ordained shift. It doesn't require permission from your past. It doesn't need validation from the world. It simply moves, and you move with it. This shift calls for a change in posture. No longer can you carry the burden of waiting. No longer can you live in the shadow of uncertainty. You must rise now, not as someone hoping for a blessing, but as someone receiving it. The season of scarcity has expired. The time of striving has ceased. And in its place stands a season of supernatural ease, spiritual clarity, and financial abundance. No more waiting. No more hoping. The miracle is here. That's not just a catchy phrase. It's a prophetic truth. It's a spiritual announcement that heaven's resources are no longer being delayed. And it's your responsibility now to prepare your life to receive what you once only dreamed of. This is the divine moment when faith meets fulfillment. It's the collision between what you believed and what you now experience. For so long, you've been in the posture of preparation. You've waited with expectation. You've prayed with hope. You've dreamed with courage. And now you must live in reception. Your prayers were never ignored. Your sacrifices were never in vain. Your tears were never wasted. Everything has been leading to this moment, where your obedience meets God's orchestration. And it's not a coincidence. It's a convergence. Every delay was divine. Every detour was strategic. Every disappointment was a setup for something greater. The miracle you thought would come someday is unfolding today. And you, chosen one, are no longer looking forward. You are stepping into what has already been appointed for you. This is not a promise. This is a manifestation. You're not standing at the edge, you're already in the flow. And the only thing God asks of you now is to trust it, walk in it, and testify about it. Don't look back. Don't second guess. Don't diminish what God is doing by comparing it to what you thought it would look like. Just open your hands, open your heart, and open your mouth in gratitude. The miracle is not coming, it is here. And it's not a moment, it's a movement. So what can you do now? First, act in agreement. Make a decision today to live in alignment with the new season. Let your words, your choices, and your expectations reflect the truth that you are no longer waiting, you are receiving. Second, declare it boldly. If this message has stirred something in your soul, say it out loud. Speak your faith into the atmosphere. Let heaven hear it. Let the enemy tremble from it. Let your spirit anchor in it. I am living in my miracle. I am walking in divine fulfillment. This is my season, and I will not shrink back. Third, be part of this prophetic movement. Support the message. Share the word. Invite others to receive their portion. Tap the like button to help more chosen ones discover this truth. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss what heaven is saying next. And comment below with your declaration, your act of faith. Say, "It's happening for me. I receive my miracle." This is not about hype. This is about heaven. This is not about emotions. This is about eternal truth taking form in your reality. Let this be the day you stopped waiting, and started receiving. Let this be the hour you stopped surviving, and started thriving. Let this be the moment you said yes to God's miracle, not as an abstract hope, but as your current reality. You've waited long enough. You've hoped long enough. Now it's your time to walk in the fulfillment of what God already ordained. And as you do, may the world witness what happens when a chosen one stops praying for permission and starts receiving divine provision. You are not behind. You are right on time. You are not forgotten. You are favored. You are not wishing anymore. You are witnessing. This is not a rehearsal. This is your reality. So chosen one, breathe it in. Step forward. And prepare for even greater things ahead. Because if this is the beginning, imagine what God has planned next.